During live Fox News segment, Pete Hegseth attacked Crockett's criminal justice record. She opened a manila folder containing his 3 hidden DUI arrests. What happened next destroyed his entire career. Welcome to Real Life Stories. Before we dive into this explosive Fox News confrontation, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this need to be told, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video, because what you'll learn tonight reveals how one manila folder ended a television career. The bright studio lights of Fox News illuminated Pete Hegseth's confident face as he sat behind the glass desk, his military posture perfect as always. The combat veteran-turned-TV host wore his trademark dark suit, American flag pin gleaming on his lapel. Just moments earlier, he had delivered a scathing monologue about law and order, criticizing Democratic lawmakers for being soft on crime and singling out Representative Jasmine Crockett as another progressive who puts criminals before victims. What Hegseth didn't know was that Crockett, the Harvard-educated lawyer and fierce Texas congresswoman, was waiting backstage with a manila folder containing documents nobody expected to see that day. For months, Hegseth had made Crockett a regular target on his weekend show, questioning her patriotism and criticizing her stance on criminal justice reform. Just the week before, he had dedicated 15 minutes to what he called the Crockett problem, portraying her as emblematic of everything wrong with progressive politics. The production assistant clipped the microphone to Crockett's blazer as the show went to commercial break. "You sure you want to do this?" she whispered, noticing the determined look in Crockett's eyes. "He spent months attacking my record as a criminal defense attorney," Crockett replied, her voice steady. "Today, he learns about accountability." The camera's red light blinked back on. Hegseth's practiced smile returned as he introduced his guest. Joining us now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who claims to have a response to our segment on crime policies. Crockett stepped into frame, her burgundy suit crisp, her expression calm but resolute, as she settled into the chair across from Hegseth. The manila folder landed on the desk between them with a soft but deliberate thud. "Thank you for having me, Pete," she began, her voice measured but piercing. "Before we discuss crime policies, I think viewers deserve to know about your 3 DUI arrests that were somehow kept out of public records." Hegseth froze, his smile vanishing instantly as the studio fell silent. This wasn't just a rebuttal. This was about to become one of the most shocking moments in cable news history. The silence lasted only seconds, but felt like an eternity. Hegseth's training quickly kicked in as he forced a dismissive laugh, leaning back with practiced casualness. "Congresswoman, I'm not sure what kind of political theater you're trying to perform today," Hegseth said, attempting to redirect. "We're here to discuss your troubling record on crime policy, these kinds of baseless personal attacks." Crockett calmly opened the manila folder, removing the first document. "This isn't theater, Pete. This is accountability, something you talk about a lot on your show." She slid a paper across the desk. "This is a police report from Rochester, Minnesota, dated June 2009. You were arrested for driving under the influence with a blood alcohol level of 0.15, nearly twice the legal limit." The camera caught Hegseth's eyes darting to the document, then to his producer off-camera. His jaw tightened visibly as he straightened his tie. "I'm not going to dignify this ambush with a response," Hegseth replied, his voice hardening. "This is exactly why Americans distrust politicians like you, trying to distract from your failed policies with personal smears." Crockett remained unruffled, pulling out a second document. "This isn't about politics. It's about honesty." Second incident, Arlington, Virginia, 2013. Another DUI, this time with a charge of refusing a breathalyzer test. She placed it beside the first paper. The case was mysteriously dropped despite the arresting officer's detailed report. Viewers could see beads of sweat forming on Hegseth's forehead under the studio lights. The host reached for his water glass, taking a long drink as he gathered himself. "You come on my show with some papers you probably fabricated," Hegseth began, his voice rising. "These are certified copies of public records that someone went to great lengths to bury," Crockett interrupted, her tone remaining firm. "And here's the third incident." She removed a final document from the folder. "New York City, 2019. You were arrested after swerving through traffic on Fifth Avenue. According to the officer's statement, you said, and I quote, 'Do you know who I am? I'm a Fox News host. This goes away or my viewers hear about it tomorrow.'" The studio fell completely silent. Even the camera operator stood transfixed by the unfolding scene. Hegseth's face had transformed from confident to cornered. "Those records were sealed by court order," he said quietly, inadvertently confirming their authenticity. Realizing his mistake, he quickly added, "I mean, if such records existed, they would be sealed." Crockett nodded slowly. "So you're not denying their existence? Interesting." She turned directly to the camera. "For viewers just joining us, we're discussing accountability with Mr. Hegseth, who has spent years criticizing others for lacking personal responsibility." The exchange had shifted from typical cable news confrontation to something unprecedented. Hegseth, the combat veteran who had faced enemy fire, looked genuinely rattled. "Let's take a commercial break," Hegseth said, trying to regain control. "Are you sure?" Crockett asked. "Because I haven't even mentioned the settlement with the taxi driver whose car you hit in the 2019 incident, or the $50,000 payment to the injured passenger." Hegseth's producer finally signaled for commercial break, but before the cameras cut away, viewers witnessed something remarkable. The host's composed facade cracking completely as he ripped off his microphone. "Cut her mic! Cut her damn mic!" he shouted, not realizing his own was still live. When the camera's red light blinked back on after commercial, viewers were met with a dramatically different scene. Hegseth had visibly attempted to regain composure, but his typical confident posture was gone. "Welcome back," Hegseth said, his voice slightly hoarse. "Before the break, Congresswoman Crockett made some serious allegations. I want to address these directly." He cleared his throat. "Everyone makes mistakes in life. I've never claimed to be perfect." Crockett remained silent, allowing him space to continue. "What the Congresswoman fails to mention is the context of these incidents which occurred years ago. The first was when I had just returned from combat deployment, struggling with what many veterans face. It was a strategic pivot, transforming the narrative from hypocrisy to veteran struggles and redemption. For a moment, it seemed like Hegseth might successfully navigate the crisis. But Crockett wasn't finished. She reached into her folder and removed a USB drive, sliding it toward the center of the desk. "I understand the impulse to humanize these incidents, Pete. Many Americans would be sympathetic to a veteran who made mistakes. What they might find less sympathetic is the complete disconnect between your private actions and your public condemnation of others." She gestured to the USB drive. "This contains 14 segments from your show over the past year where you specifically attacked Democratic politicians for what you called coddling criminals and being soft on crime. In 8 of these segments, you specifically discussed DUI cases." The camera zoomed in on Hegseth's face as realization dawned. This wasn't just about exposing his past, it was about exposing his hypocrisy in methodical detail. "In fact," Crockett continued, "just last month, you spent 15 minutes criticizing my support for a first-time offender diversion program that helps people exactly in your situation. You called it progressive nonsense that endangers communities." She removed another document bearing the Fox News logo. "This is the transcript where you said, 'Anyone who drives drunk should face the full consequences. No exceptions, no excuses.'" "That statement was about repeat offenders," Hegseth countered weakly. "Like someone with 3 DUIs?" Crockett asked, her eyebrow slightly raised. The control room was chaos. The producer was frantically signaling while fielding calls from network executives, but Hegseth seemed paralyzed. "You know what's interesting, Pete?" Crockett's voice took on a more conversational tone that somehow made the moment even more devastating. "I actually support rehabilitation and second chances for everyone, including you. The difference is, I don't go on national television and condemn others for the very same mistakes I've made myself." She turned to face the camera directly. "This isn't about Pete's DUIs. We all make mistakes. This is about the breathtaking hypocrisy of building a career on condemning others while hiding your own past." The moment of complete exposure had arrived. Viewers watched as something remarkable happened on live television. Pete Hegseth, the tough-talking host who had built his brand on unwavering confidence, visibly broke down. "You don't understand," he said, his voice cracking. "You don't know what it's like to come back from war and try to—" He trailed off, looking down at the desk. In that unguarded moment, the facade completely crumbled. It wasn't just an admission of the DUIs, it was the collapse of his carefully constructed persona. Crockett's expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained firm. "You're right, Pete. I don't know what that's like, and I have immense respect for your service, but I do know what it's like to be repeatedly attacked by you on this network for advocating the very policies that gave you a second chance." The control room finally cut to commercial break, but not before viewers witnessed Hegseth remove his microphone with shaking hands and exit the set, leaving Crockett alone at the desk with her meticulously organized evidence. Within the first hour, the video had been viewed over 5 million times across platforms. The contrast was striking: Crockett's methodical exposure of documents versus Hegseth's crumbling facade and eventual breakdown. Fox News initially released a statement: Pete Hegseth is taking a temporary leave of absence to address personal matters. But behind the scenes, network executives were in crisis mode, reviewing his contract for potential violations. By evening, Crockett had become an instant progressive hero. Her methodical approach, never raising her voice, simply presenting document after document, being analyzed as a masterclass in accountability. A week later, Fox News released an updated statement. Pete Hegseth has decided to take an extended leave to focus on his family and address personal issues. The industry translation was clear. Hegseth had been suspended indefinitely. The confrontation had transcended a cable news moment to become something more profound, a conversation about accountability, privilege, and who gets to define justice in America. For Crockett, it transformed her from a respected congresswoman to a national figure. For Hegseth, it ended one chapter of his public life, serving as a reminder that in an age where records are just clicks away, the gap between public persona and private reality was narrowing for everyone, especially those who build platforms on judging others.